Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm Thomas Henley from Aspergers Growth, and today we're going to be going through 10 signs that you may have autism. Before I get started on the video, I just want to introduce myself to you guys. For anybody who's a new subscriber or just someone finding this on the internet and saying, oh, this looks pretty good, this is what I'm looking for. I was diagnosed with Aspergers Syndrome when I was 10 years old. I still remember it to this day. I went to this psychologist place. It was pretty fun. They asked me lots of questions. After the whole assessment and stuff, my mum took me to McDonald's. She sat me down. It took a bit of a while for her to explain about it, but she told me that I had autism. I had Aspergers Syndrome, and at the time I remembered feeling an overwhelming sense of relief. I was relieved because I had felt different for a very long time from the rest of society and just normal people. I didn't feel like any kids at that age, definitely not any kids at that age, understood me, and I felt like a lot of the kids were very illogical and they were just completely just didn't understand them. For the most of it, I was feeling very isolated, and when my mum told me, even at the age of 10, being so young, I could, explain why I was feeling like this. So this is the reason why I'm making this video. Many people out there will be thinking, oh, you're just diagnosing people willy-nilly, you're going to cause more harm than good, you shouldn't put labels on people. But in this case, it can be a very good source of relief and understanding about yourself. Let yourself know that there are people out there like you, who have experiences like you, who think like you. It's a very nice thing to be a part of. Number 1, you find that when people tell you to follow your intuition, follow what you feel inside, generally it doesn't have the same effect that it would have on a lot of people. Apart from just being logically driven, most human beings, most people who aren't autistic, they have some sort of emotional intuition about people. Autistics don't have the best sense of telling non-direct communication, and we don't get a lot of input from our emotional environment. Our learning is very logical and follows a linear path and needs to have evidence for things. Just go with the flow. It's like, I don't want a flow. I want to direct this flow. I want it to be a nice, steady stream down the stream, down to wherever I want it to go. And I don't want to follow the flow. I want to have control over myself, and I want to know why I'm doing stuff. Numero 2. You are a direct talker. You communicate directly with your voice to another person. Now you may be thinking, hey, this is not a trait that's just for autistic people. You've got those confident, direct talk type of talking people. That was a mouthful. And they talk directly, and they get straight to the point. The difference with an autistic person is that this is our only way of communicating. When you have autism, your ability to comprehend body language, facial expressions, tonality, and context is very low, and you don't really pick up on a lot of things. And because of that, you don't generally learn anything like that when you're a kid, and a lot of your communication is very direct, and there's no sort of hidden message and no sort of, if you say something like, yeah, I like you, you wouldn't say that. You just say, I'm not really sure if I like you or not. It's kind of a big difference. You want to talk directly, or that's the only way of you talking. So if you find yourself more in this little category over here, could be that you're autistic. Number 3. You are a direct. I've already done that once. You think about everything like you are a scientist. You think about stuff for a long time, and you think about stuff in a lot of detail from different angles, and basically anything that you take an interest on or is important to you or forms your opinions, you will spend a lot of time thinking about every factor, every little nook and cranny that goes into that thing. This is because autistics generally tend to be very, very hyper analytical. A lot of people who don't understand autism will view us and the way that we communicate and the way that we talk and the way that we go about ourselves as very over the top and unnecessary. We need to understand stuff to feel comfortable in what we're doing and the reasons for why we're doing stuff. And that can lead us to develop a sort of progressive way of learning human emotion and human communication, or just anything in general, and that can transfer into your adult life and make you very hyper analytical about everything. So if you find that people are, just not really understanding why you think about stuff so much and telling you, oh, you're just overthinking, you've got anxiety, you've got depression, you've got low self-esteem. If you don't have all that, you might be autistic. But if you do, there's some other traits that you can look for. And that brings us on to numero 4. You fit one of the 2 Aspie stereotypes. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, if you don't know what Aspie means, it's an abbreviation of Aspergers, which is a type of autism, type of high-functioning autism. Generally, most people who are, most of you guys that are Googling and YouTubing this kind of stuff will have a degree of functioning that makes you uncertain about whether you're autistic or not. And these people are usually Aspies, or people with Asperger's. High-functioning autism, if you're looking at the DSM-5. I have got a good consensus of, 2 types of Asperger's people. I'm not saying that everybody fits into a singular category or that there is only 2 categories. So the number 1 stereotype is the confident Aspie. So if you find yourself to be very direct talking, you tend to feel comfortable being alone. You may not have anxiety, you may not have any of the other mental health problems or issues, but you find yourself sort of lacking in understanding of the world. You tend to be very hyper-focused on something, don't tend to take in other things that are happening and other people's needs. People generally have a bit of a charm, associate a bit of a charm around you, being, apparently very confident in yourself. Your quality of life is alright, but you kind of sense that something's a bit off. The second Aspie type is somebody who really, 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 really wants emotional connection with people. And they do not like being alone, they don't like to feel alone, they don't like to feel alienated, they don't want to be alone. These types of people generally find themselves in childhood accumulating a lot of emotional trauma, emotional issues, being bullied. If you're a direct Aspie, you may just say, oh, he's an idiot, I'm not going to listen to him. But for some of us, we're very hurt by people's actions when we're a kid, because kids are so illogical in general, and they think more with their emotions and they don't really think about what they're doing and why they're doing it. It can be very hard for an autistic to comprehend that stuff when you're a kid, and it can lead to you making a lot of assumptions about people in general, about yourself, and generally just feeling very sensitive and hurt by everything. However, on the flip side, you do find that you very much try in a lot of social situations. You try and put yourself out there into the world. You try to find people who are like-minded and understanding, and just generally make you feel like you're part of the human race. Number 5, high five. Panic and anxiety seems to come out of nowhere. It's not just constrained to anxiety or, being scared or being fearful. It can be anything. It can be anger. You could just have random outbursts of rage that you have no idea where it came from. And here's the thing. People around you may notice that you're getting stressed. They may see that you're getting stressed. You may even think, oh, maybe I'm getting a bit stressed. I'm not really sure. For example, if you're working on a project or something, you're doing some homework, anything. and you get this looming feeling that you're a bit stressed, and you're not really sure if it's going to be stress or whether it's increasing or decreasing. So you carry on what you're doing despite these emotions brewing up in the background, and then suddenly it all just becomes too much. You don't know what you're doing, you can't use your brain stops functioning. This can come out in different ways. You can have a panic attack, you can have an intense burst of rage. I haven't really heard of anybody having a meltdown, which is the technical term, over being happy. But, you know, I'm open to anybody who may have experienced that. But yeah, if you find yourself getting overwhelmed and not realizing that your emotions are building up and not doing anything about it, could be autistic. Number 6. Yes, we've passed the halfway point. And for this next point, it is you get hyper-focused when there's something that's interesting you. You'll go into scientific, logical, machine mode when you find something interesting, and you will not stop reading about that thing. You will not stop trying to understand that thing or working on that thing until you're dead. You'll get so interested in something that it becomes hard to steer away from it for regular functioning. You may just neglect all areas of life in order to focus on this one important, interesting subject, almost to the point of obsession. People like to label it with obsession, autistic obsessions. I like to think of it as really intense passion and concentration, which I think is a very useful tool. Maybe you're interested in being a super skilled super hacker, and you're going to hack all the banks in the world and take all the money. I don't know what you're into, but you find it very interesting. Now, there is another side to this. You may find that you're not having this stable obsession with something. For a lot of people, it might not be just one thing. It could be multiple things at the same time, different times of day, different times of the week, different times of the year. For example, maybe at one point you watch a movie and you see someone who is amazing at maths, who's amazing at physics, and builds a rocket or builds a robot, and you're saying to yourself, I could do that, I'm gonna do that. So you plunge yourself into the mathematical world and physics world and work at it straight for about 2 or 3 days, and then something else comes up and you're like, oh, this is fun, this guy came from nothing, he was physically damaged and now he's an athlete, I could be an athlete. So if you find yourself in either of these two groups, might be autistic. Number 7. You find the general public, the media, people in general, to be very logical and sometimes very annoying. Autistic people generally are very narrow-minded, meaning that you're not very easily swayed by emotion. You're not very easily swayed by different people's points of view. Your point of view is from logic, and that makes your point of view superior to everybody else's, and it's very hard for someone to convince you unless they use solid logic. Now, because of this, you can feel very much like you're surrounded by a bunch of gorillas, or, just some very emotionally driven creatures. If you find yourself falling into these, thought patterns of just looking at the general media and just being like, what is happening? Just in every single aspect of it. Hey, you over there, why are you watching this? It's stupid. How can you find this entertaining? Number 8. You do not like or use non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication being context, facial expressions, tone of voice, and just anything that isn't direct communication of words. And people just generally don't understand that when you want to say something, that is the extent of your opinion or the extent of how you feel on something. If they say something in words and assume something else from their body language or facial expressions that you haven't noticed, Other people will understand that, but for you, if someone says something verbally to you, and that's not true, it can be very hurtful, because that is the only way that you really find comfort in communicating. Even if they look visibly sad and they're saying that they're not sad, it can be very confusing for you, and you can either take it as they're lying to you, or you're just boggled by the confusion of it all. And it can be a great hindrance to your ability to socialize and make friends and make relationships, because people don't understand how much your brain works like this. Number 9. We're nearly at the end of the video. Hang on with me, and if you like this video, like and subscribe, and let's get rid of that stuff. Let's stop that, YouTube. Why is that happening? Anyway, you find routine a very important part of your general well-being. You feel at your best when you have routine and you know what you're doing and you fulfill that routine. You feel a sense of accomplishment and you can rest easy at night knowing that you've completed this routine that you've set yourself. Now, it doesn't have to be in words, it doesn't have to be like a structured list or anything of things, but it's something mental that I'm going to do this for this amount of time, or around this amount of time, and I'm going to do this and then this. And that gives you a good grounding, and it makes you feel good and stops your mind from racing over to random subjects. I'm very bad at setting routines, but I also like routines. It's a very complex relationship that I have with routines. And when somebody, that evil person, wants to change your routine, it's, you might let it slide because, this happens in life and you realize this, but it makes you feel so horrible inside. You have a plan, you know what you're doing today, and your mum comes along, or your significant other comes along and say, I've planned to do this, I want to do this today, I want to do this today, and if you don't want to do this, I'm going to be sad. If you find that happens quite a lot, and you get very stressed and annoyed when people try and disrupt your routine, even if it's just something simple like you're working on something and someone says, oh, can you just come do the dishes with me? Or can you just pop and get me a tea? Or go do your room, go clean the room. You find it very destabilizing, and it's very hard to come back from those kind of things. You find it hard to get back into your routine, and you might go to bed feeling quite bad about it. My God, it's been a long video, it's been a long time here, sitting down and punching over right now. I should be back here, but there's this little annoying light in the corner that I can cover like that. But I'm sure it's annoying you as well, so I'm very sorry about that if that's detracting from the quality of the video. And that sounds really sarcastic, doesn't it? But it's not. It's not sarcastic. I'm very sorry. Number 10. This is the most important thing for me. Do you find complex emotions very, very hard to understand? Maybe even simple emotions? And do you find that it's very hard for you to notice when you're in a specific emotion? The only way that I can feel what emotion I'm in, unless it's very extreme, so if I'm very sad, then obviously I can feel it, but it has to be very strong for me to feel an emotion. In general, if I'm in a bad mood, or I'm sad, or I'm happy, it's very hard for me to understand what that means. If you feel like all of your emotions, the only way that you can tell that you're in a certain emotion is through physical feelings, if you're anxious, then you might get a tense feeling, and that indicates that you're anxious. Basically, autistic people, we don't have a very good consciousness of our emotional brain. It doesn't have as big of an input into our decision making and how we're living our life, because there's a lot more heavy influence from the logic end of stuff, which makes us so hyper-analytical and explains a lot about our behaviour. It can make things very complex. People who, like myself, who really value emotion and human communication, it can be a very difficult thing, because how can you relate to somebody when you don't know what it feels to have the thing that you're trying to relate to someone? I'm not wording that very well, but I hope you get the gist of that. What is that feeling? We can't communicate our emotions, and it can be very hard to understand people when they don't explain their emotions to the extent that we do. You generally feel a lot of empathy with people, and a lot of people don't recognise that in you. It's an emotional awareness disability, and it's an emotional communication disability in both ways, both outwards from yourself and both inwards from other people, and it can make social communication and understanding emotions extremely difficult for autistic people. So, it's the end of the video. I'm so sad to see you go. I hope you'll stay on my channel, you'll watch some other stuff. If you're a new person watching this, thank you so much for just watching it. And I really do hope that if you're coming from the standpoint that autism is bad, and autism that is not a good thing, just do a bit more research and a bit more soul searching. If you have found out that you're autistic and you're very pretty much sure after this list that you are, make sure to get a diagnosis first, just to make sure that it's alright and it's okay. And if that's too difficult, make sure that you reach out to other people and try and talk and communicate and sort of come to a conclusion about that sort of stuff. There's lots of valuable information out there on autism, and there's lots of social media sites and groups and forums that can offer a lot of support, especially when you don't know, you're not really sure, you don't know if you're just a bit odd, or you don't know if you're autistic. It's not a case of trying to label people. Labeling helps in this case because it makes you understand the ways that you're different from other people, and understand the ways that you're like other people, and you can communicate, you can accurately find people who may be very similar to you and have very similar experiences and emotional experiences that you can relate to. And once you have this information that you are autistic, you can do a bit more work, you can do some work on your social skills if you're lacking in that, and you can find some way of removing this horrible light effect that's going across my face. And again, I'm very, very sorry about that. You go away. But anyway, as I said, if you find this video helpful, please give it a like, let me know that you find it helpful. Share your experience in the comments. I'm very open to communicating with my subscriber base. If you want to talk to me, subscribe, comment down below, tell me what's going on. If you feel like that's too much, you can go over to my Facebook channel, page, whatever. And you can like that and send me a message, a personal message. I will get back to you on that. I would be very, very excited to have you as a new subscriber. Hope you find it useful, and I'll see you in the next video.